What's up, everybody? My name is Haratwe, and welcome to Changing the Paradigm. This is not just a YouTube channel. This is your home. This is my home. And in this home, we prioritize mental health. And as the saying goes, your health is your wealth. So invest in it. So today I want to talk about a subject that's very close to my heart, and I'd like to talk about navigating grief. Those that know me know that I recently lost my mom. It's been 2 years, but it feels like it's been a week, a month, you know. It's still so fresh, and I don't know how long that takes, but it's a pain that I will have to live with for the rest of my life. Those that know me know my mom and know how incredibly close I was to my mom. And I think in the videos that I've recorded, I've spoken briefly about losing her, but it was in terms of other themes of mental health and how I was affected by my mom's passing. So, just to give you a backstory, my mom had me when she was 16, very young. So I'd like to always think of my mom and I as growing up together. And funny enough, there was never a time with my mom when I felt as though she's young. I've never disrespected her intentionally where there's words between us. I've always held her at in the highest regard. And also, I've always had a fear that my mom is going to pass away. That was something that I've had since I was a child. I would be extremely paranoid every time I think I could lose my mom. And it probably was because I lost my dad when I was 6, and that was a loss that crippled me. And it was a defining moment of pain in my life from the age of 6. It defined my life in a very painful way. And it was only as I grew older that I understood that my dad didn't leave. He passed away, and there was absolutely nothing he could have done because my 6-year-old didn't understand why my dad could just leave. That's just how I saw it. But I think because my mom was my only remaining parent and we were so incredibly close, and I loved her. I loved my mom. I loved and looked up to my mom so much that every single time at school, no matter the subject, no matter the language they use, if they asking who's my role model, I looked past Oprah Winfrey, I looked past everyone, and I would always choose my mom. I would always choose my mom because my mom was my heaven and earth. My mom was the stars above. My mom was the reason for singing. She was my life. So I could never see myself living without her. And it's a feeling that I carried until the last day she was on this earth. I could never see myself living or having to live without my mom. So, just the story about what happened. I think I'm strong enough now. Like before, if I couldn't talk about my mom without crying, um, a month ago, like a year ago, I think it's this year that I've done the work and I've accepted. I mean, I do have days when it's incredibly hard. Just when I think and I'm like, I just want my mom. I just want my mom. And you revert to being a child and feeling so helpless. And, you know, there were times I remember on her birthday last year, I cried so much. I actually vomited and I was alone. And I remember having to clean up the vomit and still being so emotional and Yeah, but anyway, it was just one of those things where it was like, okay, I want my mom. It was just it does happen, and that's the thing with grief. Um, it's not linear. You have your days where you can live and you think you're doing well, and a little thing like a voicemail, and a voicemail. You hear a voicemail that is similar to your mom's. It was a standard one. It wasn't even something that it wasn't a custom made voicemail because it's the one she had. That breaks you down. Because my thing with the voicemail is that every time um, I couldn't get hold of my mom, I would panic. I would panic, I would panic like, where you at, mom? And then she'll, like, when she does eventually come back and she'll be like, hey, why are you so paranoid? I was doing this and this and this. But that was just always me. Like, I've always just had this fear. So when I hear a voicemail like that, and I'm like, shit, she's gone. She's gone, you know? But yeah, so my mom passed away in 2021 on the 25th of August. And she was sick. It was COVID related, but she wasn't even sick for that long. I remember she went into the hospital on the 12th of August, and it was a minor thing where she was like, they're going to care, they're going to admit her, and it probably be a day, and she'll come back tomorrow. So she had an overnight bag. And I remember one of the things that I knew for a fact is that my mom cannot contract COVID. I remember it was such a fear of mine. But she was also so careful, she was also so careful about it. And she went to the hospital on the Friday. And no, it was a Thursday actually. And when she got there, she called me and she's like, no, they are admitting her. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. And then on Friday, I call her. I'm like, hey mom, how did you sleep? Now there's a cough. I'm like, mom, why are you coughing? She's like, I don't know, but they're gonna take COVID test. I'm like, God, not my mom, not my mom, you know? And God, God did. God did. Um, got the COVID test, and sorry guys, like I didn't think, but this is better. Like, um, I'm crying now, but my mom, before I couldn't talk. So this is a lot. This is progress, like, it's like, but my mom, so yeah, so they took COVID tests and she was coughing, coughing, coughing. And I was like, but my mom wasn't even coughing, and that's not the reason she went. And then later on, they told her she's got COVID, and she was coughing, you know, and it was hard to talk to her. And she was in the general ward. And then the next day, I was trying to get hold of her on her phone, couldn't get hold of her. And I called her phone. Uh, I called the reception of the hospital, the help desk, and they were like, your mom is in high care. Like, high care, but what's going on? You know? And mind you, like, I'm literally like, God, please, not not my mom. God, not my mom. And then I'm like, no, she's gonna be okay. She's gonna be okay. So she goes to so I call high care. I'm like, what's going on with my mom? It's like, no, she can't talk. She's busy coughing. Her oxygen sets are down. My God, when you're just watching something happening and you're like, yo, what's going on? You know? But anyway, um, the next day, so now I'm communicating with nurses because she can't talk. On the Friday, Monday, I called. They're like, "Hey, we don't know what to tell you. Your mom is critical but stable." I'm like, the last time I heard that was about Mandela. What's going on? What's going on? But yeah, so it was just that thing every day, where it's like, no, your mom's okay, your mom. So the last day, no, yeah, so I get a call the day before she passes on. The the hospital says we can come to the hospital, and then I got there. It was my family, but it was just my gran and I that were allowed. So my cousins were there, my aunts, my uncle, they all came through. And then when we got in, we my mom was in the oxygen, and then when she heard my voice, she started crying, like tears, but she couldn't talk. You know, she couldn't talk. Um, and then my gran also, when she was talking to her, my mom was just crying, and we were just begging her, like, please fight, please, we need you. Just everything that we could say. And on my phone, I called my cousins, my aunts, everyone I could think of that she loves, just to ask them to talk to her and encourage her to come back home because we need her. And everyone was, because we all had like a WhatsApp group where I was just telling everyone this what's going on, we're praying. And I'm telling her, we're praying for you. We miss you. Come back home. Um, yeah. And then she was like, oh, she couldn't talk. And then we left. And then the next day, I was at my daughter's school. She was an award ceremony, and she was getting an award. And I remember I went to my daughter's school wearing pajamas, and I didn't know. I didn't know I was wearing pajamas. Oh, sorry, that was so disgusting. Um, so before the ceremony ends, I go to my daughter and I'm like, we have to go. And she's like, Mom, why? I'm like, I don't know, but we have to go. And on our way, I get a call from the hospital. It's like 7 o'clock at night in the evening. They say, please come to the hospital. And I was like, wow. I was like, wow. 7 o'clock, I must come to a hospital. Wow. And then I called my aunt, my mom's sister, and I'm like, we have to go to the hospital. Like, I'm like, yeah. So I don't tell my kids. I'm like, no, I'm just gonna go to the hospital. I think your grand needs some stuff, so I'm just gonna pack some stuff and then take them to her. And then my kids were like, okay, they don't see anything. And then by the time I got to the hospital, my family, my cousins, because my mom was very close to everyone in the family, so we were all just, you know. And I remember my cousin coming to me, and he was like you could see. And I was like, dude, I think they're just gonna tell us maybe, oh, because the previous day they had said she's on life support. So I was hoping that they're going to ask us if they can switch off the machine. And I was like, guys, if they ask us to switch off the machine, please, we must all say no. We must all say no, please. And my cousin just kept hugging me. He said nothing. Like you could see, like it was so hard for him. And he was just hugging me. And I'm like, Khulu, they mustn't switch off those machines. And then we got there and they were like, no, you need to come in. only one person. And so my family's like, so I'm like, no, I'll come in, you know? And yeah. But anyway, I had to identify my mom and, and just talk to her. No, I mean, yeah, I had to identify her. And she was, guys, I didn't think, I thought I'm strong enough. I'm strong enough to do this. But anyway, it seems like I still I still got some healing to do, But yeah, um, I had to identify my mom, that it is her. And honestly, that was the worst day of my life. Worst day of my life. Seeing my mom lifeless like that. And then having to plan her funeral and planning everything, because once someone passes on, there's no time. You have to keep planning and planning and planning. You plan, you know, until, you know. So the thing with grief, that the things that I learned during my grieving season, number one, grieving is a lonely process. It's lonely in that, yes, your mom had a family, people loved her, she had friends, but your relationship to her, or whoever, whichever person you might lose, it's unique to you. So the things that I miss about my mom are not necessarily the things that my gran would miss, because we all had a unique relationship with her. So yes, the grief is shared, but to a certain extent. And the more the days go by after her burial, everyone resorts to their own corner, trying to come to terms with it, and it becomes incredibly lonely. So it's in those moments that I had to speak myself back to life, speak myself back to healing, speak myself back to understanding the reason for why I'm still here, because I couldn't see it anymore, you know. So that's one. So I would suggest joining support groups, seeing, you know, who you can trust and speak to earnestly, because when you don't speak about how you're feeling, it catches up with you one way or the other, because that pain needs somewhere to go. If it just stays static in one place, it's not healthy for you physically, emotionally, mentally. So you have to ensure that you find support systems, even if it's online, reading about grief, talking, watching videos of people that have gone through it, just to know that you're not alone. The second thing that I realized about grief, that I experienced, is that your life will never be the same. There's Haratwe before losing my mom, and there's Haratwe after losing my mom. And the Haratwe before, I cannot relate to her. I cannot relate to the girl that still had a mom in this world. I cannot relate to the girl that still had a mom as an anchor in this world. When my mom passed away, everything became eye level. Things that I would depend on her to sort out, things that I would ask her, that that was not a resource for me anymore. My mom was gone. And I had to now lean on a strength of mine that I didn't even know existed. I had to see things that I never even thought I would see in my life. I had to have conversations that I never even thought I would have to get into. And that's what grief got me into. It's at that place that people break. It's at that place. It's either you break or you grow. You grow and you find new strengths within you, because there are new strengths within you. There are tools within you that you didn't know of before, because you had this comfort. But when the comfort was gone, I had to fight for my life. So that's the second thing. Your life will never be the same. That's not necessarily a bad thing. you can find ways to embrace that. um, you can embrace it, you can grow with it, and you can grow from the grief. You can grow. It's not, you don't have to be stuck there for too long. The third thing that I learned from grieving my mom is that when people say, I'll be there for you, call me, don't take it with a pinch of salt. The things that people say when you lose a loved one come from a place of shock. They're also shocked. It's not that they're bad people. Even you have made empty promises because you are so shocked and you feel so bad for the person in that situation. So when you find yourself losing a loved one, don't be dependent on anyone else because they might not come through in a way that you need them. Find ways to lean to yourself. Find ways to be your own resource in your healing journey. People that even meant good can disappoint you because you're thinking, but you were my mom's best friend. I thought you'd be there for me. But they're also dealing with their own things. And truly, life does go on, unfortunately. No matter how hurt and broken you are, life does go on. And the sooner you lessen your expectations of other people when you lose a loved one, the better and the quicker you accept your situation, and just know, Hore, healing is your responsibility. The fourth thing that I realized during my grieving process is that you have to accept. You have to accept, regardless of how close you were, regardless of how like dim things look, you have to accept. You cannot negotiate with the fact that someone has passed away. That only prolongs your healing journey and it hurts you that's left in this world. Hard as it is, you have to accept and try to forge a way forward. Knowing that, for example, my mom was incredibly protective of me, but she wouldn't want me to stay in my grief for too long, regardless of how close we were. She would want me to fight myself out of the dark hole that I found myself in. And right now, I know if she does see me, she's much happier with where I am and she's proud because of the fight every day. That's another thing. It doesn't stop. It's an everyday fight of getting yourself out of that hole and trying to see life, trying to see a reason for living. This is going to be a long one. But, and then the last thing is that you might feel unanchored for a while. You might feel like you've lost your footing. This person that was your everything. Like I remember with my mom, we would speak literally every other time. My mom, whenever my phone would ring, my kids would be like, it's Coco. And then we'd speak. And now that was taken away from me. And having to adjust to a new normal of not having this person felt empty. It feels empty. But every day is an opportunity to find new things that can make you happy, new things that can fulfill you, new things that can make you feel alive. Like, just starting a YouTube channel gives me purpose now, gives me, there's more things to look forward to as opposed to having nothing to look forward to. So fight. It's not easy, it's not linear. It comes Grief comes at you in different ways, but it only wins when you allow it. And I always remind myself that, I'm not the first one to go through it. I'm not the first one to lose a mom. There's people that lost their moms when they were teenagers. There's people that lost their moms when they were born. They don't even know their moms. But I was blessed to have my mom for 35 years. So just looking at the beauty of the thing that you're going through, that it's not all, sorry, it's not all doom and gloom. There are moments to just be grateful and appreciate. But anyway, guys, I don't want this to be a 30-minute video. Thank you so much for watching this, and I hope in your grieving journey this video does help somehow, just to know that you're not alone. There's more of us, and we'll conquer. We'll conquer. And it just, there's a saying that says grieve shows how much you loved a person, and it it's just the love that you had for that person that's just trying to find its way in this world without the person. So you really love the person. Just always remember the beautiful moments you had, and just try your best, so that if the person was here, they'd be so proud of you. And every little thing, every small thing, just find ways to enjoy yourself. Every little thing, be proud of yourself. Just waking up is a great feat when you're mourning, when you're in grief. Making your bed is